Hello and welcome to the 34th episode of the Real List Podcast, a podcast about our real list. I'm your host, Ellis.
And I'm your host, Gloria.
And today we have a selection from me. This is actually something I've been wanting to get to for a long time.
Yes,
And
this is... What is this movie, baby?
This is Stargate. It's actually, I was just going to say, it's like the 5th movie on the list.
Is it really?
It's the highest movie on the list that we're actually reviewing, because the top 3 we've watched.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before we started the podcast. And then the 4th one is Spirit, the Stallion of Cimarron, which we can't figure out where to watch. Yeah.
I think we're going to have to look it up on Netflix.
I was going to go and see if they have it in the library catalog, and we can just get it in.
Yeah.
Phrasing.
I wish Netflix movies was still a thing. Where they...
What, like get the DVD delivery?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I wish that was still a thing.
I feel like there are fewer and fewer people that have a way to play DVDs these days. That's an issue.
Yeah, it's all streaming services now.
You can't watch a DVD on your phone, so what does it matter?
Meh.
You ever notice how phones were getting smaller and smaller until they realized you could put porn on them, and since then they've been getting bigger and bigger?
No.
Well, that happened. Anyway, this is Stargate. This is a 1994 science fiction film written by, or co-written by Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, directed by Roland Emmerich, produced by Joel Michaels, Oliver Eberle, I
have no idea.
Dean Devlin, starring Kurt Russell, James Spader, Jay Davidson, and Viveka Linfors.
Very small starring list.
Yeah, I know, and there were quite a few people in this movie that, like, comprised what you might consider the main cast, and that is literally just the main... Wow, he's aged. You know, the two leading men, and then the antagonist, and the I don't know, the woman who acts as the inciting incident, a walking inciting incident.
How much money did this movie make?
This movie made like $200 million.
Oh,
off
wow.
Of $50 million, but actually this is pretty much in line with the last movie we made in terms of budget or the last movie we watched in terms of budget and return, which is interesting. But yeah, this has been something I've wanted to get to for a while because I love Stargate. Honestly, I think it is...
I know, you've been wanting this for a while.
Yeah, this is the best of the 3, like, Star franchises, if you ask me. But that's probably because it's set in, like, a 20 minutes in the future sort of world. It's, you know, as opposed to Star Trek and Star Wars, where it's either, 500 years in the future or a galaxy far, far away. This is like, oh, this could be happening under our noses, and it gets more into that as the series goes on. And
oh yeah, it's definitely all over the place. Like, this movie was a giant, like from the get-go, it was like, oh, I'm gonna abduct somebody, take somebody from this time frame,
ancient Egypt,
from this time frame, and I'm going to use it to host their body and keep myself young forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't find that out until much later. I mean, heck, they don't introduce the antagonist until an hour into this movie.
Yeah, they don't introduce him until, like, it's kind of like Space Jam.
Yeah, but first of all, yeah, don't be mean to Stargate and compare it to Space Jam. I'm not being
mean to. I actually like this movie. Actually,
I do
for a sci-fi movie. I liked this movie.
I'm glad you liked it because
it kind of reminded me of, like, Doctor Who mixed with a whole bunch of other, like, sci-fi movies that we've watched.
It's Doctor Who plus Doom.
Yeah.
I mean, you compared the wormhole sound effects to the
doorway,
yeah.
Doom, the one that's like the gel.
Yeah, and no, I totally see where you're coming from, but I wanted to give the little bit of background, which is we're watching this now because I wanted a break from the action, and we were going to do Howl's Moving Castle, but that's apparently coming back to theaters like in 2 weeks or next week or whatever. You should
probably look that up, make sure.
So yeah, no, I'm going to need to investigate that, but. We figured, we'll put that off, and we've been watching Archer. But the person who we were mooching their HBO Max to watch Archer, their Hulu to watch Archer, is no longer has Hulu. So we're doing Stargate instead, so that I can get us into watching the full series. The full series, SG-1, Atlantis, Universe, and I think maybe some of the side things that I've never watched. Are all on Amazon Prime right now, except for Children of the Gods, which is the pilot to the TV show. We can probably do an episode on that if we want to. But
Yeah, but
Point is,
we figured out where we can watch that.
Yeah,
though.
this was the time for me to say, okay, we're going to watch this movie and we're going to start watching the series so we have a TV series to watch on the side. But yeah, this is a long-ish movie. Like, it's not a 3-hour-long movie.
No, I mean, 2 hours is long enough, though.
Yeah.
2 hours and change.
Well, it's an hour 52. It's a little bit less than 2 hours. But it is the first half of the movie.
The movie said, the thing, like, the bar said 2 hours.
Oh, did it? I thought it was...
it's 2 hours and change.
Sorry. You're right. It said an hour 52 somewhere. I looked it up, but you're right. This says an hour and 21 minutes, which corresponds with how long it was on the thing. I wanted to praise the movie for a second for doing something that not a lot of sci-fi does.
What is
which
that?
Which is, you spend the first half of the movie learning about where you've landed. You know, interacting with the culture, with the people. This isn't one of those movies where it's like, we've landed on the alien planet. Oh, well, that's convenient. They speak English.
No, like, this is they landed on an alien planet. They end up in this abandoned temple, and they scour first of all, Jackson or Daniel finds this water buffalo camel hybrid, whatever looking thing.
Yep.
And tries to befriend it, and then gets dragged, and they find, what is it, their little civilization?
Well, they find, like, the mining outpost
working area.
first. Yeah,
their workshop over there. And then Daniel has the necklace with the Eye of Ra on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they think he's Ra in a different form, and they bow to him, and they call him a god, and they take them to the civilization.
Yep. And, they try to
set him up with the leader's daughter.
Yep.
But it's okay. He got his punani anyways.
Yeah, no, I mean, they get together eventually, but, you know, he rejects her immediately, and I was just like, damn, what does it feel like to be rejected by a god? If you're used to Zeus, you know that gods historically cannot keep it in their pants. And
I know.
Ra extends that stereotype with his underage harem that he literally surrounds himself with at points in the film.
Yes. That blew me away. I was like, what is going on here?
He's just being a god. I mean, I feel like this is typical
a god of underage
behavior.
Children?
Apparently. A god of, like, misanthropy. Just, like, all the bad things that you think a god can be. He's vengeful because he takes out his wrath on, like, the town for no reason. He has his underage harem. He abducts people. He becomes those people, or at least this one person.
He kills people when they defy him.
Yep, very classic villain stuff.
But like the way he kills people, it's like he like sucks like their brainwaves out of them.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. It's like they're convulsing as like their nose and their ears start to like they had
he
like
melts their brain.
Yeah.
It's yeah, and again another thing. It is interesting how much this movie sandbags. And again, it hangs on to its big reveals
oh my God.
for the most part, and it's like big, like important plot things.
Mm-hmm.
It really holds on to them for a while. It doesn't give them to you right away and then throw the characters in a situation they have to figure themselves out. The characters are constantly in situations where they are learning and discovering and trying to find their way out and find their way around, while at the same time, the sort of overall plot is being slowly revealed to them. Like, it could have been a story where, 10 minutes in, when they arrive on Abydos, which is the name of the planet.
That's the name of the planet?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever mentioned in the film. It's mentioned in the series quite, a lot.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to start watching the series, like, as soon as possible.
Yeah. But point is, when they arrive, they find the cartouche, they want to do they want to go home, and then it becomes a conflict between them setting off the bomb and not, and then they get distracted with the natives.
But the thing is, what was his name? The captain, Kurt Russell. Yeah, Kurt Russell's character, had a bomb.
Yeah.
And nobody else knew about it.
Nope, just him.
Nobody knew about it, and they were like, he was like, oh, if there was what was it, any threats, they were to blow up the Stargate, and keeping everybody on the planet, the alien planet, and just staying there.
Yeah, like, we get to learn that, screw the natives, right, is basically the policy here. It's, we're gonna blow the hell out of the Stargate and the Temple so that this, any threat can never come back to Earth. And, like, we don't find out about that until minute probably 30 or 40, and everyone else in the movie doesn't find out about it until, like, 10 minutes from the end of the movie. Which, again, is really interesting, because they had this point of, maybe it's not 10 minutes from the end of the movie, but it's, half an hour from the end of the movie. They really had this point that could have been a major point of contention that could have driven the main characters apart, and they decided not to use it. They decided to spend that runtime instead, slowly revealing the secrets of the Stargate in the world, which, a lot of very cool stuff, that about half of which is dramatically expanded upon during the course of the series to come, and the other half is ignored and forgotten about, and just, like, changed. Like, this is supposed to be... Did you catch them saying, when they first activated the Stargate, they were just like, it's the other side of the known universe, and it's a distant galaxy, or whatever? Spoilers, in Children of the Gods, or very, very quickly into the series, they established that that is all completely false. Abydos is, like, the nearest habitable planet to Earth. And...
Yeah, with, like, everything the same as Earth, right?
Well...
Even down to the oxygen level?
Yeah, a habitable planet is not a rarity in the universe of Stargate. But the original vision for the film was that there would be a total of 4 Stargates. And that's it.
Okay.
And in the series, it's like, no, there could be thousands.
Oh.
They keep exploring new planets and stuff. So
it's kind of like Doctor Who, right?
Yeah, it is a little bit like Doctor Who in that,
it's the show where they travel to the Stargate and there's another problem, another issue, they have to solve it, they go back to the Stargate, and then they do it all over again.
Yeah, it's sometimes...
Doctor Who, basically.
Sometimes it's a planet of the week, sometimes it's a monster of the week, sometimes it's, we've brought back a virus from another planet and people are getting sick and we need to figure out how to cure it. Those episodes are surprisingly common. Which is, you can now look at those episodes through a different light, post-COVID. This isn't meant to be a critique or a talking about the series as a whole, but it does sort of follow the pattern of a lot of other science fiction series, or, other series in general, but it's like, okay, new planet this week. Meanwhile, there's overarching storylines and stuff like that, like Anubis comes back in a big way, and them blowing up Ra here actually has significant impacts on the plot of the series as a whole going forward. Which, spoiler alert, yeah, they do blow up Ra at the end of the movie. They use the rings to great effect. I'm sure you saw that coming at a point, right?
I think I did. I think I had a feeling that was going to happen, but I didn't know entirely what they were going to do. I also like how only one of those guys had the power to use the rings. Like, had the power to use the button. Yeah, he had it on his hand, and he was the only one who had one of those. It's
very specialized technology. One other thing which you're immediately going to have to forget about this movie is that, the sort of expositional scene of Daniel and Sharae in the library,
tombs,
or whatever you want to call it.
Catacombs, whatever you want to call it.
Where they're, like, learning about the history and whatever, and how the aliens made this technology, the Stargate and whatever. That's all not true. The aliens are... So
what is this movie? One giant lie?
No, the aliens are parasites, and they act like gods, and they pretend... They've, like, inherited all this technology from an earlier race, and they're just acting like it's all theirs, and they made it all up, when they're just, like, stepping in the shoes of something way, way bigger. Basically, you just find out that, these aliens, there's more than one of them, they've just been tooling around the galaxy pretending to be gods for thousands of years. and people worship them because they make sure those populations are subjugated by just being terrible tyrants and blowing them up all the time.
Do you have any questions you want to ask?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna ask, because I've just been going off about the series. I sort of apologize for that. I did want to ask what you thought of, in particular, Kurt Russell's character and his sort of thing with his son and guns.
I thought that he was going to kill himself.
Well, yeah.
I thought that if they didn't walk in like maybe 30 seconds sooner, he was going to pop a cap in his head.
Jesus Christ. What, at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, at the beginning of the movie.
I mean, okay, yeah, maybe.
He was holding the gun and looking at his son's picture, okay? That's obvious. He obviously wanted to kill himself.
True. I mean, he was going to get his wish. He was going to stay behind on the planet with the bomb and probably just become vaporized.
I don't know. I thought Kurt Russell's character was like a dickhead, and I was like, yes. Oh, why are they introducing him if he's gonna probably shoot himself anyways?
He's gonna be in this movie for 5 minutes.
Sorry,
they go into the house. They're like, "You've been reactivated," and they're walking out of the house, and you hear a bang, and it's like,
Guess
"Oh, never mind. We'll go find somebody else." Yeah, let's go find another big name actor.
He deactivated himself.
Amazingly, they did not try to give this role to Tom Cruise.
Thank Christ.
Which this is a 1994... When did Top Gun come out? Top Gun. Not the new one. Oh, 1986. Okay, yeah. No, Tom Cruise would have been in line for this part, I'm sure.
Tom Cruise is a vampire.
I mean, or maybe he just has a sarcophagus. What do you think about that, by the way?
What, the giant sarcophagus?
Did you think Daniel was dead at any point?
No.
No, yeah.
No, because I was like, why would they kill him off if he has all the answers?
Mm-hmm.
And then he just wakes up in this fancy looking sarcophagus and he's all healed and he's like touching his wound
his shot hole.
His shot hole, and he's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then he magically can understand their language.
Okay, that's not magical. I feel like it's pretty well established that he spent all that time with Sharae just like understanding how to pronounce.
But what if Ra helped him understand more while he was in the little sarcophagus healing?
I mean, that's possible. That's possible. I just don't feel like that's what the movie was aiming at.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I do agree that it's sort of a leap to go from we understand nothing and I'm balking like a chicken because I don't even remember the word for it tastes good that the leader said 5 minutes ago. To go from that to like having a conversation with Ra, but
I don't like the CGI in this movie.
It's not great.
I don't like that Ra's eyes are constantly glowing.
Well, you're gonna have to get used to that one. The glowing eyes thing is that carries on. They don't get rid of that.
What?
It's supposed to be creepy and off-putting, so it sounds like it's hitting the mark.
I just didn't like it. I also didn't like that Ra is this some kind of alien, and then like he's just disguising himself. I mean, that's like probably the whole.
He's a parasite.
It's the whole point. But like I like at the end how it's like he starts transforming into his alien self before the bomb blows up. Like, what is that going to do? Is your alien form going to protect you from dying?
He's bomb-proof, apparently.
Apparently he didn't turn too fast because he died.
Oh yeah, he very dead.
He doesn't come back in the series, right?
No.
Okay.
No, Ra's dead.
Okay.
Like I said, Ra dying is, like, it has an impact on the plot of the series, like, as a whole.
I also like how, the people of the town just come together and they know how to use guns. Like, they magically know how to use guns. Like...
I found it more outlandish that Jackson is as good of a shot as he is, versus the like, teenagers, you know?
That is true. How does the dweeb know how to use a gun?
Exactly.
How does the dweeb know how to get gun and pull bitches?
I mean, if you act like a god, you can do whatever you want. Ask Ra. Well, maybe not whatever you want.
I don't want to ask Ra for anything.
No, you don't ask Ra for anything because he abducts you and then he lives in your body for the next 8,000 years.
No,
or whatever.
I'm good.
10,000 years. But all in all, there's a lot that goes on over the course of this movie. And again, a lot of it is because it's sort of front-loaded with, we're going to need to have to figure out what we're doing on this planet. And then the big bad shows up and you have to figure out what you're doing with that. You know, I feel like there's a lot of room for sort of different plot lines going off in different directions that isn't necessarily explored, but the film still maintains this narrative of, you know, it's in totally chronological order. There's no, like, flashbacks, really. I mean, there's one.
No, this movie was kind of all over the place, and it was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it was a lot to take in, because I was just, like, going from one place to another, and, like, it was just like, oh, here's this, and then here's this, and then here's, 30,000, what was it, BC, and then here's,
It was 8,000 BC, and then it was 1928.
And it was 1928 where they found the Stargate and the fossils with the inscribings on it, the hieroglyphs and stuff, and then it was present day.
Yep.
And I was just like, okay, so we're bouncing from 3 time generations. Where are we going to stay?
Yep. And it does stay in the present after
I was afraid that it was going to go to present day and then it was going to bounce back to 1928. And then I was afraid it was going to, like, I don't like movies that constantly bounce around, you know? I want to know what's going on. I want to be able to understand the movie.
You know what the opening of this reminds me of? It reminds me of the opening of Rogue One, where you get the...
Really? Why?
Because you get a bunch of exposition in short segments that have nothing to do with one another.
Okay.
Or at least immediately don't have to. I mean, if I can remember right, you get the scene of, like, the family on the planet with young Jin.
Yeah.
And then, like, she gets saved by Saul, and then it cuts to...
her being older. Or no, it cuts to something else.
It cuts to, what's his name? The pilot, or not the pilot. It cuts to the other guy.
The guy that they were looking for.
Yeah, point is, it goes between, a few different perspectives before those storylines converge. You know what I mean? And that's sort of what it reminded me of here. They're doing a lot to set up some things, but instead of setting up a bunch of different perspectives, it's just sort of giving you background to, like, aliens came to Earth in 8,000 BC.
It's basically an Egyptian / an alien movie.
Yeah.
Thrown into one.
It is kind of neat that it rests that heavily on mythology, which I kind of figured you might appreciate, and I wanted your thoughts on that. I know you're not a big Egypt person, but I know you like mythology.
I honestly loved how they incorporated, like, you know, the gods of Egypt and, you know, the Eye of Ra and a lot of the hieroglyphs and, you know, the sarcophagus, like, you know, Ra coming out of the sarcophagus. I loved that. I loved that Ra's bodyguards wore headpieces of other gods. We
Anubis,
had Anubis, and I forget what the eagle god's name is.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I loved how they had those headpieces and they were, like, retractable. That kind of made no sense to me, but it also was really cool, you know, for the movie in the time period that it was made in '94. You know, that's good CGI for that movie.
It's not even really CGI. It's they did these scenes. I was reading about how it was made, specifically the headpieces. They did a shot of them with the headpiece on, a shot of them with the headpiece off, and then they, like, digitally cut out sections of it to sort of hide one at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost closer to, like, 2D animation than CGI. It was really inventive to get those headpieces.
I also like how you made the correlation to Atlantis. How you're like, oh, Daniel's character's just like Milo Thatch, and I was like, oh yeah, I see a lot of it.
I'm just Googling Milo Thatch, Daniel Jackson, and I want to know if there's, like, an interview somewhere where they're like, you know.
But I mean, this Atlantis was out before. I mean, way after this movie came out, though.
You know, that's what I'm saying. I would be curious if Milo Thatch was at all inspired by Daniel Jackson. According to critics, Milo's character is super said to resemble those of Daniel Jackson, but there's like nothing.
There's nothing
as far
really.
as I
There's
know,
nothing really
yeah.
confirming it.
We should watch Atlantis. I don't think it's on this list, but
no.
I would love to do that.
Do you want to jump into star ratings, or do you have another question to ask me?
I was trying to sit on a bunch of questions, but while we were watching this movie, it's been so long since I've seen this, and I love the franchise, and I've watched a lot of the later series, and I wanted to like develop things to talk about and things to think about, but mostly I just kept getting hung up on two things. One, wow, I don't remember that from last time I watched this movie, which was years ago, and two, wow, that's a piece of lore that they threw away in the series immediately.
Yeah, you kept on bringing up, like, oh, when we watch the series, you're just throw out this whole movie. Just throw it on out. And I was like, what do you mean? We're watching this movie. How am I supposed to just throw it on out? And you're like, you'll understand.
You will. And you just sort of, you have to go into the series thinking, like, not when they say something that contradicts this movie, not like, well, what the heck? Wasn't it the other way? You just have to think, like, okay, they had it wrong. Like, the people in this movie had it wrong. It was the first time playing with the Stargate. They didn't know what they were doing. And, it took them 2 years to try and decipher these hieroglyphs. Out of curiosity, when you saw the glyphs on the gate, were you ahead of Jackson at all in recognizing them as constellations? Which would have been super impressive if you were. I certainly wasn't. But,
no, but I figured it out once he saw the newspaper with Orion that he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because I liked the line, you figured it out in 14 days, what we couldn't figure it out in 2 years.
Honestly, he figured it out in like one night.
Yeah, he did. He literally did. He figured it all out, and I was just like, I'm impressed.
Yeah. And, I mean, they do a good job of showing that Jackson knows what he's doing, while at the same time, when they end up on an alien planet, that he's in over his head. It's very good. He's not like a perfect know-it-all. He's someone that has like a region of understanding, and then there's stuff beyond that, like way beyond that. Yeah, I mean, is there anything that you wanted to say about like just the movie in general?
I like the ending scene where they're all band together and they're like trying to fight off Ra's henchmen.
Oh, when they all come over the hills?
Yeah, when they all come over the hills.
They can't stop all of us.
And I like how the realization where they all realize that they weren't slaves.
Yep.
I like that realization where they realized that they weren't slaves. And I was like, that's like a wholesome moment out of the entire movie. Also the fact where Jackson saves his little boo thing, throws her,
his wife,
throws her in the sarcophagus, and then just utterly trots by fucking Ra in the hallway. Just Ra watches him just scoot on by carrying his unconscious wife.
That might be the best scene in the movie.
I was like, are you serious? You're just scooting on by this guy? Like,
oh man, he's just like just carrying this woman. Excuse me, just carrying the woman to the teleport rings.
I think Kurt Russell's character redeemed himself though at the end of this movie.
Well, he actually smiles at the end of the movie, which is great. Like he's such stone faced through the whole thing, and then at the end he's got
RBF.
Yeah, well, he's got dead kid syndrome.
Yikes! Let's jump into star ratings before we say anything else.
Oh man, there was one more thing I wanted to say, but we're way over time. The parallel of the humans on Earth rising up and burying the Stargate, and the humans on Abydos rising up against Ra once again. I just
that was nice.
That's good. That's a neat like full circle thing they got going on. This movie's pretty good. It strikes me as a pretty good movie buried under the veneer of a really cheesy sci-fi adventure fic from 1994.
See, the thing is like I like how cheesy it is though.
It is a little, yeah.
I like how predictable and cheesy it can be, Like, I knew that they were gonna say Stargate when he was translating in the beginning of the movie, and I was like, oh, they're gonna make it say Stargate, aren't they?
Yeah, you get the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme like,
oh,
he said it!
There it is!
He said the name!
Alright, so you go first. It was your pick. What do you rate this? How did it age?
You know what? I'm gonna give it a 4. I feel like 4.5 or 5 is overselling it, but, like, I don't think this is a bad movie. I do think that the series improves upon many of the lore aspects dramatically, and I feel like, again, it's kind of cheesy, it's kind of silly, but it does a lot of things really well, better than other movies of its genre.
I'm going to give this a 4 as well. I think that it was a nice tie between the Egyptian and sci-fi, meshed together.
Ancient aliens.
I think that the story was really well put together. I can't wait to watch the series with you.
Yay.
And, yeah, that's what I feel about Stargate.
Also, Kowalski can
Kowalski can suck a dick. He needs to get his shit together.